What's up everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and all that kind of stuff. So as usual, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet for more Reddit content, and let's get into today's stories. Have me sign a weird contract or I fail? Okay. Last semester, I had to take a class from a professor who wasn't bad as being incompetent, but definitely was one of those I have a new way to teach that I developed kind of professors. She also gave the vaguest instructions on what she did want in her turned-in work, and didn't believe in study guides as she wanted to encourage reading the material. Honestly, I got more out of the book than her class, and buying the book alone would have been far cheaper. Trying to get direction out of this lady was worse than trying to pull teeth, met with mostly do your best. On top of this, she apparently handed out a grading contract. On the first day to everyone, we had to sign in return. I missed this due to being sick, so I didn't get it until later. Said contract basically boiled down to indicating what grade you wanted at the start of the semester. You either met the conditions for that grade, or you would fail. So basically, by saying you wanted an A, you either met the qualifications for an A or you would fail, even if you could have gotten a B or C instead. If you decided to play it safe with saying you wanted a C, even if you exceeded and would normally get a B or A, you would just get a C. So to cut out a lot of the drama of the semester, two things. First being I had surgery at the beginning of the semester. Second is I was working full-time while at school to pay for said school. Both ended up with me missing a lot of work, and normally I would just cut my losses, except I am very close to my degree, and my professor said I could make up the work. Otherwise I would fail and need to retake the class anyway in the spring. So I decided I had nothing to lose and buckled down with basically getting next to no sleep for weeks. I had over a month and a half at least amount of work and 2 weeks to do it in. During an exchange where I was emailing my work, she told me I still hadn't done her contract, which at that point, only a few weeks out from finals, I didn't get the point. But she told me either I did the contract or I would fail. She also had let slip that not doing the final would drop you a letter grade, but not fail you. The only exception to her weird contract that wasn't in it, and one I confirmed very deliberately in writing. At this point, I was bone tired, and honestly forcing myself to continue working on anything. Which may not sound like much, but with my mental health history was Herculean effort. I just wanted the pain to stop and a full night's rest. So I decided if not doing the final just dropped me by a letter grade, then I would just do the work for a B, and end up with the grade I thought was fair for how the semester had gone. This meant for even more work, but it also meant I didn't need to worry about a final, and could finally just sleep. Which I explained as much to the professor when she asked me why I didn't have a final turned in on the last day. That so far has been the last I ever spoke to or seen of her. Imagine my surprise when I actually ended up with a B in her class. Personally, I take this to be her never wanting me in her class again. I do know she apparently has it now not doing the final is an automatic D. So sorry to anyone who got her after me. You know, it's actually surprising that a professor would even be permitted to use this kind of grading system at a university. It's basically just taking the established rules of the grading system and throwing it out the window. They might as well not even exist, cause she's just doing her own thing. Because telling a student to name the grade that they want, and they either meet it or completely fail it, sounds like just an incredibly flawed system. In so many ways, too. It does make you wonder if any of her colleagues in the university even know that she's doing this. Because you would think that someone would step in and tell her, like, hey, you know, you should probably just stick to the established rules. Old cat lady next door has a lawn, landscaped solely with used kitty litter. In summary, my next door neighbor is an old recluse with approximately 1,000 cats. She does not leave her property. All food and water is delivered, and she has no trash pickup, so in the middle of her yard there is a 10-foot tall pile of trash bags. And that's not even the problem here. The real problem is, while from a distance her yard may appear to be landscaped with white sand or small gravel, the actuality is that her entire property is covered in used cat litter that she dumps. The black spots are not darker rocks, they're just the fresher pieces of cat crap which have yet to be sun-bleached. Needless to say, the smell is atrocious and noticeable from down the block, and flat-out nauseating from my yard. The layers have gotten so high that she's even built little wooden berms to keep the litter from flowing through the chain link into my yard. That was years ago when she still gave a little bit of a shit, however. Because today I caught her flinging the litter directly into my yard, and that's the final straw. Earlier on, I was trying to be sensitive and not ruin an old woman's life, but this is now 5 years of this stench, combined with her newfound reckless disregard for even attempting to keep it out of my yard, plus the fact that I caught her viciously trying to kill a neighborhood pet last summer, and my sympathy is all gone. What government agency do I have to reach out to have this end? At everyone's suggestions from the last time I posted about this, I contacted the county adult health department or something, and they were no help. And I even took it to the California Environmental Protection Agency, who also ghosted me. Is there anything anyone can think of that I could contact that will give a crap about the health hazards involved here? Okay, so the first thing that I'm wondering is it actually 1,000 cats? I mean, sure, I guess that's possible, but it also sounds like it could be an exaggeration. Like, has OP actually seen all these cats outside in view all at once? Or do they just kind of see a lot of cats there and they're just assuming it's gotta be about 1,000? I guess because a part of me wants to believe no way would someone actually have that many cats on their property, right? Not trying to downplay the situation at all, it's obviously terrible. I mean, maybe there is 1,000, or maybe it's just more in the ballpark of the hundreds. Anyway, just pointing that out, but I digress. I'm not going to make any suggestions on who to call because the comments have already taken care of that. They've covered just about anything you could think of: the health department, adult protective services, ASPCA, animal control, code enforcement, etc. And OP did mention that they tried contacting a couple agencies before, like the EPA, and nothing panned out. So if they do want something done, it would probably be best to try to just contact as many damn people as you can. Kick up as much of a fuss as possible, and hopefully something will be done about it. I would have to imagine once people actually get sent out there to inspect the place, no matter what agency, surely they wouldn't be able to just turn a blind eye. They would obviously see that it's a health hazard, an environmental hazard, animal cruelty, code violations, etc. But nonetheless, that just sounds awful to have to live next to. So I guess best of luck, OP. If you make enough people aware of the situation, I would hope that something would be done about it eventually. The day I lit an ambulance on fire, pic included. Several years ago, I was working as an EMT for a small private ambulance company, which contracted primarily as a transportation service. The ambulance company employed a pair of mechanics that did regular maintenance on each unit and fixed problems when they came up. The company's CEO was pretty stingy when it came to money, so the rigs were old and a lot of the mechanics' spare time went towards restoring the Impala owned by the CEO's son. I wasn't well liked by the owners and management for one reason or another, but I suspect it's because I frequently spoke my mind. This means that I was tasked with the worst trucks on the worst shifts. One day my partner and I were dispatched to a scheduled patient transfer from a long-term rehabilitation facility to their home. On our way to the facility, our ambulance overheated and we were forced to pull over. Dispatch was notified and we were told to let them know when the truck cooled so we could get back to work. An hour later, the truck was still hotter than I'd like, and I let dispatch know that we needed a new unit. Their solution was to have us drive back and swap our gear into a fresh unit to finish our shift. We would need to drive across town to get back to dispatch, so I let them know that it would take a while as we'd need to pull over every time the engine overheated. Little else was discussed and we started back. I figured I'd stick to the smaller side roads and take my time avoiding the freeways, for the safety of ourselves and other drivers sharing the road. I should also mention that every ambulance has a GPS reporting system that reports all of our telemetry, so we're tracked every moment of every day. The moment we pass the first entrance to the freeway, the dispatch manager, we'll call her Mary, calls us on the radio and angrily asks us to explain why we're not following instructions. I opted to give her a phone call to settle this and not have a long drawn-out discussion on the public airwaves. Mary accuses my partner and I of wasting time in milking the situation so we wouldn't have to take our share of calls. Mary goes on saying that our intentions were obvious, since we're not taking the freeway, and as such, when we got back to dispatch, we would be dismissed for the remainder of the day without pay, and they would investigate to see if further disciplinary actions would be needed. I tried to let her know that driving on the freeway was unsafe, and I would have to stop more frequently, but she wouldn't hear it, and told me to get back as fast as possible. No more delays. Cue malicious compliance. Our patient monitoring equipment is incredibly expensive, and management has stated in the past that if we break it, we're on the hook to replace it. So I tell my partner to pack it all up and just put it inside the side door, because I wasn't sure what would happen, but chances were good that we need to grab it quickly and make a run for it. So as directed, we turn around and head back to the freeway entrance at full speed. I think we made it to the end of the freeway merging lane when the temperature gauge started to redline, and we had another 12 miles to go. The further I drove, the hotter the engine got, and it started to produce white smoke, lightly at first, then heavier as we approached the big hill just before our freeway exit. Several cars were passing us and honking their horns to alert us of our peril, but there was no stopping this train. We were filling up the lanes behind us with smoke, and the smell was wretched, but the ambulance was still running. As we made it to the top of the hill, the engine cut out and lost all power. Smoke was pouring out of the sides of the hood, but my vision wasn't compromised, so I coasted it over to the shoulder and got it as far off the road as I could safely manage. Once I threw it into park, flames erupted from the engine. I told my partner to get as much equipment evacuated as she could, and I grabbed the fire extinguisher. As I'm trying to put out the fire, my partner is on the phone, letting dispatch know that we were forced to stop because our ambulance was on its way to a fiery death. I guess at this point our situation had received enough attention that someone had called 911, and the fire department was dispatched, but they pulled up on the opposite side of the freeway watching to make sure things didn't spiral out of control. We were sure to let dispatch know that the fire department had also arrived. Shortly after our call, the CEO's son showed up in his Impala to pick up the equipment as well as myself and my partner. He was on the phone trying to get a flatbed tow truck out as fast as possible, so his smoking ambulance could be removed from public view as quickly as possible. The unit was picked up and towed back to the garage, all while the fire department sat and watched. My partner and I were still sent home for the rest of the day. I celebrated the early start to my weekend with a few drinks, and nothing else ever came of it. That unit was retired and never saw service after that, but the mechanics said they owed me a beer, I guess because I brought an end to the worst rig in the fleet, and they no longer needed to provide upkeep on it. Anyway guys, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. And as always, if you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Reddit content like this. So I'm out of here, take care, and I'll see you next time.